So, this is Speed Worldbuilding Improv. Surprise guest, Madeline James, everyone, by the way.
I don't know. I'm here for the vibes.
Jake is here now as well in the chat. We're going to be building 2, possibly 3 worlds today. And we're going to go sort of all the way. We're going to start with like the star systems, the general astronomy, geography, the climate, sort of narrowing down. We're focusing on a specific region and then like what's their culture like. And in the end, we'll sort of flesh out like a single character to sort of express the general themes of the world. I sort of set up a spreadsheet where people could like submit instructions that I'll have to follow for each world, which I've not seen beforehand. We'll just see how it goes. I have not rehearsed. So we'll start off with astronomy. General thing. And our first suggestion for World 1 comes from Noah. A close binary of early G-type stars, one slightly more massive than the Sun. A warm, hot gas giant is the only world to orbit inwards of the habitable planet. Alright, so I'm going to pull up my handy-dandy world-building spreadsheet. The biggest difference I think this will make having a binary system, the years are going to be a good bit longer. 450-ish to 800-ish in terms of the length of the year in days for a habitable planet. You might get very strong like Milankovitch cycles, like variations in the like axial tilt and eccentricity. I don't know, it's tidal dynamics, which confuses and terrifies me, as it should any sane individual. Our only like inner planet is going to be, do we want it blazing hot, or do we want people to be able to actually go there? Let's go a bit close, but not super close. And then, do we want a planet or a moon?
Ooh. I vote moon.
You want a moon. So let's...
I like moon.
Something a bit smaller, something a little more Neptune. Wow, that's bigger than Neptune. If we want to go similar to Earth, you generally want to be towards the inner edge of the habitable zone. A lot of people, they put it in the middle, and the problem is to be habitable there, you need like 100, 1,000 times more CO2, which is not so great for humans. Let's just throw a couple other things in the outer system while we're here. I mean, we're not really going to come back to these, but I just like to have the vibes.
Yeah.
I don't know, just a couple of ice balls. Why not? So let's like sketch this out. We've got 2 stars, very close binary stars. Hot Jupiter in a very close orbit. Sort of smallish gas giant in the habitable zone. Probably going to be sort of bluish white or blue with white clouds. You might have sulfur clouds that might be more orangey, but I like blue. It's going to be some kind of smallish kind of Mars-like planet. Something like Saturn. Just a couple of ice balls. Alright, let's say that one's fast rotating because I didn't make it a circle properly. So that's our basic vibe for a solar system. So, you know, maybe in the future they can like check out the Mars-like planet, check out the moons here. But I'm spending a bit of a while here, and I'm going to pay for that later, but we're steaming ahead. We'll just focus on our habitable-ish world for now. The planet's apparent diameter in the sky will be 27 degrees, which is quite large. Every day, in the middle of the day, you get a 3-hour eclipse, which could be quite
actually really cool.
And then, do I not know how my own code works? Okay, illumination from the planet night is going to be over 2,000 lux, which is like more than indoor office lighting at night. We'll assume it's tidal locked to the planet, so there's like one half that's always facing the planet and one half that's away. So on that like outer half, it's just a planet, it's whatever, you know, boring day and night. But on the side facing the planet, it will be like bright at day, still fairly bright at night, and then 3 hours in the middle of the day, you just suddenly get blackness from the eclipse. There'll be other moons around this planet they could visit, but I think it's time to move on.
Are you ready for the global geography prompt then?
Yeah.
Yes, this is from Bavalia, and the instruction is a major supercontinent divided by a Himalayas-style massive mountain range.
All right. Seas. One of the implications, if we're on a moon and we want to be at like low inclination relative to the planet's orbits so that we get eclipses every day, that means it's going to be effectively a very low axial tilt. The poles we're going to have pretty large ice caps and not really much in the way of seasons. We put our supercontinent somewhere in the middle latitudes. It's a supercontinent. It can be big. We can extend it up. Pro tip, if you're using a program like this, if you set the second brush to 0 opacity, you can just click and right-click as an eraser. Which is how I like to do all that. We're having a Himalayan mountain range, so we're going to have like a big mountain range like that. Big mountain range. You often get with big ranges like this, is one side of them will get sort of pushed down, so you can have a nice long inlet there. Just mess up these coasts a bit. Visual. 1 second. It's kind of like illustrating, basically. You start with like a really rough sketch that doesn't necessarily look good, and you just kind of iterate on it. Let your heart tell you what the geography be like.
I like the follow your heart approach. It's very Bob Ross.
It's a very noisy process, geology and so on. So there's kind of a lot of things that are like, it's sort of too complicated for you to like take it all to account anyway. So you kind of have a certain amount of freedom there to be like, yeah, just stuff happens. There's just like a ridge here. It just kind of worked out like that. When you learn like the processes and how the things happen, it puts like edges on like what you can do, but you still kind of have like a playground in there where you can just kind of do whatever. Maybe there's like another mountain range in here, some stuff going up here. Let's look at the global climate next. Let's see what that's like.
I think this is definitely going to throw a little bit of a wrench in. Average global, and this is by Alex. Average global temperature of 25 degrees Celsius.
Okay, so might have hit that, I think, briefly during the Eocene and then during the early Triassic. So during the Carnian, as you've just learned about. Incidentally, I can't believe you passed up the chance to make dragons from Scansoriopterigids. Tisk tisk. 25 SeaWorld. So it's going to be hot. To get that average, we need to get it hot. We need the glaciers to be mostly melted. And because it's a low tilt world, the middle latitudes are going to be really damn hot. So a lot of this middle area might just be kind of uninhabitable to humans. But we don't necessarily have humans here. So, screw them. Who needs them? Let's just get a general vibe of the climate here. So you're going to have the tropical winds coming up here. Probably pretty dense rainforests here. Going to be a pretty hefty rain shadow. So all of this will be like super dry, super hot desert. This being a low tilt world, it's going to be like a lot of desert, a lot of rainforest. Like down here will probably be pretty dry. It might be a bit wetter down here. Higher latitudes have the winds coming the other way. Maybe we can see there's a bit of axial tilt. So like funky twilight forest. Probably fairly dry around here as well. That's sort of general vibe. A lot of desert, which is, it's a supercontinent. That's kind of what you expect.
Yeah.
Let's sort of try and focus on a region.
Okay, so regional climate is the cold side of a subarctic climate, DFC.
Okay. Hard to get D with low tilt, but alright, no. The planet is on an eccentric orbit. We can make it work.
And then the regional geography is Western Interior Seaway analog with many islands, somewhat similar to the Canadian Arctic archipelago.
Okay, I can make it work. The planet is eccentric, so that gives us some seasons, so we can get a continental climate, and still have the moon at like a low tilt in its orbit around the planet, so we get those eclipses every day. Western Interior Seaway, sort of during the Cretaceous mostly, North America was sort of divided in two by this shallow sea that covered the whole middle. I'm gonna go for sort of this way. Maybe our seaway kind of extends all the way over the pole. So, a separate color here. So this is all shallow sea. And they're living in this sort of funky sort of twilight zone. I don't remember who narrated the Twilight Zone. I was going to make a joke off of that, but I got nothing. Various little islands. Just let your heart tell you where the island should be. I'm not sure the polar distortion is going to be kind to this, but you know, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking something around this region. So we'll have sort of zoom in a little. Like I said, a sort of Canada type feel. Lots of nice little fjords. So everyone loves fjords.
That's
if you
true.
don't like fjords, you're an alien infiltrator, and how dare you?
Agreed.
Fjords. I should have some branching fjords. Let's do a Red Quills type stream, just nicely. Chat about our fjords. Chat about all the pens we're using. I'm using a mouse. Let's say fairly hilly in the interior here. Yeah. Nice fjords. That's the vibe.
Nice, happy little fjords.
Okay, we can have some kind of Viking stuff going on there, but we haven't got to culture yet. We'll get there. Let's do biosphere biology. Who lives here?
Okay, this is by Corinna. Alternation of generations and metamorphosis are prevalent. Significant sexual dimorphism and other forms of polymorphism.
Okay. I like that. There's a lot going on there, but I like it. Okay. Do you know about alternation of generations?
I have no idea what that means.
It's something that a lot of plants do. Rather than like having the same process of like development and like childhood maturity every generation, they sort of alternate from one to the other. One generation, which is some kind of planty thing, you know, your standard like 2 sets of every chromosome, and they split their chromosomes to make sex cells, create a totally different offspring organism, which has just 1 set of each chromosome. And then these will mature, and they can be like a totally different form. Ferns are sort of the classic example of this, where we know like one version of ferns, which is like one of these generations, and then the others are these like little heart-shaped plants that sort of like sit in the undergrowth. So then these will like make like sex cells, which then meet up with some other cell from somewhere else, and then they'll actually undergo sexual reproduction and then make that original form again.
That is fascinating.
So it's like you can have like basically 2 different types of organisms that might have like totally different like niches and sizes and ways of life in the same species because of the way their reproduction works. They sort of alternate back and forth between these 2 forms. I don't mind stream, I always do this sort of thing. Ordinary generations, metamorphism, and sexual dimorphism. So we're getting a lot of polymorphism, which is just like different kind of body plans and forms within the same species. Let's get the sense of our main sort of animals in this planet. And the thing that I always like to do with alternation of generations, I think like I've done this a lot of times. I think I picked up from, what's it called? It's like Ilion or Ixion? I think it's Ilion. Speculative biology project about a tidal locked world. The idea I'm going to steal from them is maybe you have one generation, you know, something standard plant-like, that'll alternate with like some kind of mobile animal form. So the idea is like originally this would have just been like just this like short-lived form to like go to a different place and then like essentially plant seeds to like go back to like the plant form. But over like eons of like evolution and so on, you ended up with this form becoming like bigger, more independent, and they start eating and so on. So it's like, imagine if like you had children and there were just like trees that you planted in your garden and you brought people around and saying, here's the kids. Aren't their leaves nice and lush? And then they would like drop seeds at something which would like grow into an animal, and then there's your grandchildren. Say these guys are hexapods because everyone loves hexapods. So yeah, but we also want metamorphosis and sexual dimorphism. The tree, it drops some kind of seed, and then out of the seed, will grow these sort of wriggly, snaky forms. Or maybe like they're tadpoles or something, and they just sort of like get washed with the water. They're like very tiny spores of seeds. And then they grow in the water as these little snaky tadpole guys. Eventually, they like develop legs. Or, other idea, the females develop legs, and they crawl up to land. The males just stay as like snaky guys, except maybe they'll have like a funky crest or something. And like weird oversized jaws. They'll do like the way salmon do when they're spawning, where their body just like weirdly contorts. Only the females sort of like become like fully mature and move around, whereas the males just stay as these like tiny little animals in the water. And then it's just with the female, it's time to mate, they'll just like come to the water and like inspect the guys and see how nice their crests are, and then like we'll choose one to mate with. And then they'll get impregnated or whatever. Or maybe they'll just like spawn in the water and they'll like plant seeds, which will then grow up along the water. So this is like a wetland plant, I'm guessing, and that'll be the next generation. Basically like 3 or 4 different forms here, which are all one species at like different stages of its lifetime. You can do like really weird things with like different types of development patterns and reproduction patterns. You could do really interesting things if that like turns up in like a sapient species, which we should get to.
Species biology from Jake is reproductive cycle like many armadillos with delayed implantation and polyembryony.
Okay. I don't know much about armadillos. Let me do a research stream. 2 or more embryos developing from a single fertilized egg. Okay, I guess that works here, sort of. Because their embryos are becoming trees.
Yeah.
Delayed implantation. Okay, so is it like they fertilize the egg, but then rather than immediately developing into an embryo, they sort of hold on to it for a while before they do it. So maybe that could kind of work here, where it's sort of that's the way they disperse. So rather than like spawning in the water, these guys do it a little differently, where they do this, they spawn, and then they sort of move to a different area, try and spawn their tree guys in a different water body, and that's going to be sort of part of their success in dispersal, where they're like they have an urge to like move on to a different region to sort of plant their tree children in a different water body.
Okay.
So we're working with hexapods. And usually what people like to do with hexapods is the first 2 pairs of legs turn into the manipulators. But let's try and do something different. Say they have a kind of roundish basic body plan. Back legs and forelegs. And then I want the middle pair of legs. These are going to be our manipulators. If only I could draw. And then we could do a regular head, but what if they have like 2 kind of heads? So there's one head on the bottom here, sort of has their feeding bits, sort of their nasal, their scent glands, and then a sort of a second stalk up here, which has like a cluster of eyes and then some sort of oral organs. Little fluffy ear things going on here, and then little eyes, and then like different legs. So that's the basic body plan I'm going with. Let's move into culture. So let's start with global society.
For global society, also from Jake, we have a shaman or similar as ruler who governs through a body of servants. This ruler is never seen.
So this is for global society. So that implies there's a sort of global hegemon of some sort. So rulers never seen. Are you familiar with? I think it was the Incas had this whole thing. They sort of couldn't quite admit to it when their kings died. So they just kind of held on to their dead bodies and were like, yeah, this guy is totally still the king. And then his son is going to be also the king. I feel like doing something like that, where part of the reason the shaman ruler is never seen is because they died 400 years ago. And we're just continuing like, no, he's totally still. He's in his palace. His palace is going to be in the mountains, in the foothills of the mountains here. Is the totally immortal Shaman King. Maybe his descendants are still around, and it's like, oh yes, we are also the immortal Shaman Kings. They've sort of conquered the planet. Everyone everywhere gives tribute to the immortal Shaman King who lives in the mountains.
Apparently, Jake was inspired by Himiko, who people also speculated might not have existed at all.
Yeah. There's a giant palace dug into the mountains here, and he's in there somewhere, I'm sure. He's working so hard to, organize global society. The fact that we've had 3 consecutive famines, it's sometimes it just be like that. The Shaman King, he's doing it all for you guys. You have no idea. Never sleeps. You've certainly never seen him being asleep. So that's sort of the imperial core, we'll say, is like this big valley here. And then these guys are they're sort of an outlying region. But they're still under the yoke of the Shaman King. To figure out more about them, I think we have to go into regional society.
So that is coming from Huelos. There's a war that no one knows of that has cost hundreds of lives.
Okay. Hundreds of lives, not a lot, but, just a few hundreds of lives. You lose them down the back of the cushion.
They're all the kings.
Well, there's a global hegemon, so maybe, there's a bit of a rebelling brewing. Maybe 3 consecutive famines isn't great for the stability of the global hegemon. Our people are living in their fjords. We'll say they're a somewhat maritime society, so they're moving around the fjords. Except there's a lot of smuggling of weapons going on. Maybe we'll say like this sort of weird long continent here. They're sort of semi-independent. They're producing weapons, and they're sort of funneling them across this narrow sea into the main continent, which is totally controlled by the hegemon. Like, these people they're just fishers, they're just hanging around, trying to, live their lives, but there's a sort of underground smuggling operation bringing, like, weapons and supplies into the continent, and maybe, like, political refugees out of the continent, moving across these islands. In terms of the society itself, they're reliant on fish. We've said the reproduction sort of depends on, like, wetland regions. Here it's a little chillier. It's a continental climate, as we established, so they've, like, have to maintain these, like, gardens for them to reproduce in. So that sort of makes them innately very vulnerable in a sense, because if someone comes and raids their villages and, like, burns everything down, then that's, like, an entire generation wiped out, basically. There's sort of inherent vulnerability to cultural invasion, which is sort of in tension with their desire to help out this, like, underground resistance with the smuggling. So that's sort of the conflict at the center of their current society. Let's talk about the character we're gonna throw together in this world.
This is coming from Oshoot. Is part of a nomad, sub-ethnic/ethnic group that travels and does skilled or unskilled work, and is of a status highly regarded within that group.
Okay. that kind of works with what we're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, can I draw any better on tablet? Let's take bets. So we've established our basic sort of hexapodal body plan here. I don't know, there's some ridgy stuff going on at the front. We've got a sort of feeding, scenting head at the bottom here. So little sensory bits. And then got a second sensory head with like some nice funky little ears, which I'm not sure really works at this scale, but you know, I like them. So just outlining the basic body.
Someone's voting for 4 ears.
They've got sort of a little frill here. This is what they like to compliment each other on. My, your ears are looking very frilly today. The manipulators. I've gone with very vertebrate-like limbs here, but you know, we're in a hurry. It's fine. Although maybe I should get a bit more creative with the hands. 2 pairs of claws. I've been trying to learn to draw more lately, but as you can tell, it's a process.
I feel you.
So yeah, because I've set up this garden thing, these people have kind of settled down. Maybe they still tend to move between cities and homes when they reproduce, but they're a lot more settled down than is sort of typical. But this is from a society, they're still like, we still like to move around. We have no settled home. We live on the ships. They live at sea. Very skilled shipbuilders, and that's sort of part of their craft that they're well regarded for. But that also means they get like really sort of wrapped up in this general smuggling operation, wearing some kind of rug or something. You're the one who just studied clothing, so it's got some nice rug thing going on the back. Then,
I like that.
To enhance the sense more, they like to like attach some kind of feathery thing. It's like little tassels, and more frilly. Around this thing too. They're just like tassels and things. That's the general vibe. It's an individual. They're very friendly. They're very likable. Like a little tool belt. What do tools look like?
Mm-hmm.
What should their name be? Let's give them a name. Don't really have time to conlang a lot, but just to complicate this whole head structure even more. So they have like a lot of like breathing holes, not tools, around their front, and that's how they breathe. It's what we've got for one head. They've got like split up all along the front here. Their vocalization is sort of, kind of bagpipey, maybe kind of whistly sometimes. So I don't know how to romanticize a name based on that, but that's what their language will be like. Our little character for this world. So they're part of this. She? They're all she. Can he have gender if all the Sophants are females? Debate it in the chat. Actually, I feel like I could do a whole write-up of that. That's an interesting question. Yeah. So this will be our character. Their name is going to be... figure out how to write that down.
I like it.
Jack's in the chat. They're conlang. I'm sure they can figure it out. We'll stick with she for... so they're maybe on the younger side. They like to work on ships. They like fix them up. But every now and then there's like bits of cargo coming on the ship that the person in charge says, don't look into those. You don't want to go into there. And then maybe one day they hear a voice softly crying, or whatever their equivalent of crying is, inside one of the crates, and they have to look in, and that sends them into a plot, because it turns out, it's one of the servants from within the shaman's palace, and they know the truth. There's something that the people don't know about the shaman, who has supposedly been in control for 400 years. So that's World 1. We have a little under an hour left. I want to see if we can do 2 more.
Ooh, really speed running.
We're going to speed run it. We're going to do it. All right. We have got 48 minutes. 24 minutes per world. I think we can do it. Do you believe in me?
Yes.
You
Are you ready
shouldn't. Let's
for...
go.
World 2 astronomy
Mhm.
is going to be a habitable world on the outskirts of a spiral galaxy.
Okay. It isn't necessarily. Well, maybe it'll be a fairly low metallicity system, so no gas giants. Let's go with a smallish. Ooh. Do we want to commit to tidal locking at this earliest stage? That might be dangerous. I'll say no tidal locking necessarily just yet. K-type star. We're at the range where it could be tidal locked or not, so we'll leave that open.
Okay.
What if it's just this is all Venuses? We got like 5 planets, and they're all super Venus-like, except for this one, which just manages not to be.
Global climate is ultra Milankovitch cycle world with large oscillation in the orbital eccentricity and axial tilt. And justification is the presence of one or more super Jovians in the system or combo of planets cause extreme oscillation in orbits and tilts of small planets.
Okay. Said we didn't want gas giants, but we'll make this one also a binary system. But the second star is a bit further out outside the system, and that tends to like really mess with the orbits a lot. So yeah, you can get a lot of like weird Milankovitch cycles like that where the eccentricity changes, the axial tilt changes. The ways your like eccentricity and obliquity seasons align can give you these very asymmetric climates on your worlds. One hemisphere is like a hellscape, whereas the other hemisphere, it's just kind of fine year long because like when you're close to the star, you're kind of angled away for it, and then when you're far away, you're like angled towards it. So you end up kind of balancing out. But if you're having these cycles where everything's changing, then like this can like alternate between hemispheres.
People are also asking about a tadpole slash horseshoe orbit question mark.
Could do something like that. Again, this is tidal dynamics, which confuse and terrify me. Um, but yeah, so that's like different ways where you can have sort of 2 planets in the same orbit. And horseshoe orbits in particular are very funky because it's like they can sort of be in 2 slightly offset orbits, but they kind of switch orbits every now and then. You get this pattern of like multiple years, which are sort of hotter, and then you have a period of like a few decades where it's colder. Just something like that. I'm not going to work out the exact orbits of that, but that might be an element we could throw in for like even more random variability. So this is just like the seasons are very variable. There's no reliable like seasonal pattern year to year. Let's do global geography. We kind of skipped over that.
Okay, so global geography is going to be several continents. Oh, and this is by Kai. Several continents away from the tropics, and one major one that is close to a pole but has habitable latitudes and is able to connect to another continent thanks to ice sheets. There is a huge laramide orogeny that keeps growing. There are several Ural-type mountains and a Himalayan-style orogeny. Collisions are recent, and the land area is higher than Earth's.
Okay. It's a lot going on here, but
yes.
It's fine. We're speed running. We can do it. Okay, so the continents are all away from one. We have a major one that's close to a pole. Let's pick the South Pole. Big continent. Do another one here. Let's do a heart-shaped one because this is a loving space. We're all having a good time.
Yeah.
Is able to connect to another continent thanks to ice sheets. All right, so I might carve out. Although, if our climate is so variable, these ice sheets are going to be like coming and going. So there's going to be like some funky migration patterns. If we really work this out, we could like get some pretty interesting biogeography there. So a big laramide orogeny, that's sort of like what's going on with the Rockies, makes this very broad plateau along the coast. Then also, this is just we're all mountains all day, all the time. You know what I'm gonna do? Pull out G projector. I'm gonna project it. One of these days I will write my big post in math projections. It will happen. Azimuthal equal area. That's what we want. I want to center that on the South Pole. So it's like showing the direction everything from the South Pole here. So it lets us work with this a bit better. The South Pole is right around here. So yeah, you'll sometimes get ice sheets connected to this one. Got a big coastal mountain range here. That's our big central range, but then you got another. Then you got like a bunch of inner mountain ranges. So we're all mountains all day. And the seasons are weird. It's not sounding like the best place to visit, but that's what makes it fun. All right, let's go regional geography and climate.
Regional climate from Grayson. Cool, moist, monsoonal weather patterns. Coldest month average greater than 0 degrees Celsius. Regional geography is going to be a foggy mountain valley with a stream running through it that's just barely large enough to sustain the local population, and that's by Star Night 5.
Okay, basically short summers, but also not too intense winters. Given what we've established about the seasons, this is going to be not necessarily a permanent condition, but so probably somewhere on the edge of here. So we're going sort of Oregon or Washington type of feel. Just a little river valley with a little stream. A lot of little river valleys. Let's give them a little a little inset map. Just a river valley, a little stream, living on the edge. One of these days the climate will change and everyone will have to move on. But you know, they're making the best of it.
A nice little migration. It'll be good. Oh, hello, Bib.
Bib's turned up. I was just thinking this would be a great planet to biogeography on if we had more than like 10 more minutes to work with it.
Yeah.
That's our little mountain valley here. So biology. Let's roll through biology.
This is from Alex. We've got bilateral symmetry, 2 limbs, and a large tail used for support.
All right. Big chunky tail. Then I'm going for some kind of like peacock-esque design here. The tail is used for support, which might free up the limbs to do double duty as like manipulator limbs, but we also got like the mouth to work with here. So that's our basic body plan. Let's look at our species biology.
So this is from Oh Shoot again. We've got the species has a parasitic reproductive system. Think parasitic wasps, where they insert an egg into a chosen animal, the egg gestating and growing inside until it hatches out into the equivalent of a toddler/young child. Lovely.
Okay. No, I like it. I'm into it. Big fan of parasites here. Let's give them manipulating mouth parts. And then, yeah, we'll say there's like a second other species. Big, chunky guys. 4 eyes. And then they have their own little feedy mouth bits. In their past, they sort of like, again, would like paralyze these guys and insert their embryos, have a good time and move on. But at this current period, we'll say there's more of a bit more husbandry going on, where they're raising them, they like keep them around and raise them, and then implant their children in it. It can be like a food animal, a beast of burden, but also they implant their children with it, and it's horrific and off-putting, but you know, that's the way they live. They think it's beautiful.
So this is from Huelos. We have the morals and cultural values are basically opposite to what is standard.
Well, what is standard?
I don't know. I mean, I would think standard is not implanting your children into other creatures. So, I mean, I think, you know, we're already in the right direction.
Okay. Opposite to standard. There's a lot of ways we could go with that. What if this is what the low class does, where they implant their children into animals, but the high class, they need a better incubator for their children. So they implant their children into lower class members of the same species.
Ooh.
And because of some long existing class structure, religion, or so on, this is considered honorable if you're a lower class to be chosen to have some rich guy's children implanted into you to eat you from the inside. So you walk into a village and they're all excited and like, oh yeah, George from down the street, he's been chosen to be eaten alive. Isn't it so exciting? So happy for him. It's the best time. And these guys, they're in an isolated mountain valley, and they're really like, we're so out in the sticks here. No one ever comes around to implant their children into us. It's a really sad state of affairs. That's like the big project they got going on. They're trying to build like a new railroad into their valley so they can finally be eaten alive by rich children.
People are into this idea.
I'm going to have a nice little train station. I'm going to have a little town here. If I had more time, I could like settle back into a nice little stream, like a little town. These buildings are not very square, but it's fine. Maybe they don't like square buildings. Maybe that's not their vibe. All right. Regional society. Let's go.
Regional society is from Jake, and this is, there's a blight affecting the main energy-providing crop for the culture, leading to structural change.
Okay. Should we interpret energy-type crop to be some kind of vegetation, or should it be these guys?
Ooh.
Because if these guys have some sickness going around, we'll say it's like something like a fungus. They don't have actual fungus, but something like that that's like affecting them, and now they're getting all like, they're getting like weird, gross. What's going on?
I like it.
Getting weird palate spots, and you're like, what's going on?
I vibe.
And like, maybe they can find alternative food sources and stuff, but where are they gonna implant their children? So it's like they go into population decline. They're like, should we like implant children in each other? And it's like, no, that's not what we do. We're not worthy of implanting our children into each other to eat our friends from the inside out. So there's a tension there where it's like no one's been able to like breed properly for like maybe 10 or 12 or something, however many years now, and they're like, what is gonna happen to us in the future? Will we still be here in another generation or two, or are we dying out as a people?
This has the potential to get very dark. This is from Bavilia. We are following a character at the bottom of the socioeconomic totem pole in a region of high prosperity.
All right. This is not a region of high prosperity here, but I think we can make this work because we just had this rail line in. So we'll sort of bend the rules for a little. So who we're following, who will be our main character here? There'll be a slightly younger Tail. It's a bit ragged. They were sick as a youth. They've got some sort of leggy legs. What do they say their eyes look like? They've just got normal eyes, but little... Is it like chelicerae? I forget what the word for these are. I don't quite know how good their construction tool use, if that's all they got for manipulating. Maybe bulk them out a little bit. Maybe they got like secondary little ones going along here. And they're like, they've grown up in this valley all their life, and they're like, feels like everything's going wrong for us. Our animals that we keep are dying out. What are we going to do? But then some rich guy comes in town, and he goes and he picks him, and it's like, you will hold my children. Come back into the big city with me. And then we go back into the big city, and then they fall in love. They meet someone else. But that person has already had children implanted in them, and they're like, is this the right thing for us to be doing as a society? Do I really want to see this person eaten from the inside out? Do I want to be eaten from the inside out? And then the rich person is like, you're too woke. Getting rid of you. And they get thrown back home, and then they have to figure out what to do with their life now that they're not going to be eaten from the inside out by rich children.
No.
Which is a stage I feel like we all go through at some point in our late teens.
I find that surprisingly relatable.
God, how does their language work? Okay, they got mouth pits. It's probably something clicky. So we'll call them Tic Tac. That's their name.
I like it.
So here's Tic Tac. A tragic character. Spurned by society. All right, World 3. We can do it. Let's go.
So astronomy from Hellos is make more than one star, and every amount, so stars, planets, moons, etc., should be a prime number. For moons, both the amount of moons around each planet and all moons in total should be prime numbers.
Okay. Every amount should be a prime number. Okay. 2 is a prime number. No, that's cheating. Okay. We're not gonna do numbers. It's fine. We're gonna have a couple stars in the center. We're gonna have a binary pair. And then we're going to have a red star. And then our planets will orbit this red star. Planets, moons, should be a prime number. Let's do 5. Like a Venus-like planet. We're gonna have a little Mercury-like planet. Let's do just another even smaller Mercury-like planet. I have a habitable world. It's a chunky habitable world. It's a super Earth. One more is just some kind of ice ball, or make it like a Neptune-ish planet. And moons. You're gonna have 2 moons, and then you are going to have 3 moons. One of which might be Mars-like, might be habitable. Who knows? We'll have to go check. Just 2 other little ice balls, and that's 5 moons, 2 and 3, 5 planets, all prime numbers. I think.
Perfect.
Climate was
very fast spinning planet near the tear yourself apart limit with a highish 30 to 40 degree axial tilt, meaning lots of climate bands and alternating winds moving up and down as it orbits.
Yeah, that is complicated. All right. 2-ish hour days is about where the planet starts to like kablap. That's a technical term, kablap.
I like it.
Let's get the global geography.
Distinct continents with varying sizes centralized in the tropics, at least 2 active Laramide-style orogenies, and this is from Grayson T.
We like the Laramides today. All right.
Oh,
yeah, the thing with fast spinning is the Coriolis effect is a lot stronger. We've got these 3 circulation cells per hemisphere on Earth. But here, it's going to be like, I don't know, like a dozen or 20 of them. And that also means like the transport of heat towards the poles is a lot weaker. So you have like a much stronger gradient in temperature from like your hot equator to your cold poles. But like, because it's got this high tilt, all the circulation is moving around. So you're going to have these regions at the mid-latitudes swinging from like very hot to very cold, centralized in the tropics. All right, so this guy is out of here. That is the wrong color. Laramides. I have not worked out the tectonics at all here, but maybe there's a supercontinent here, and sort of everything is kind of moving away from that. Sort of big mountains here. I said at least 2. No, everywhere has Rocky Mountains. It just kind of coincidentally worked out that way. Lots of wide mountain ranges. All right, 13 minutes. Let's go. Regional geography and climate.
Regional climate, tropical rainforest from Star Night 5. Regional geography by Jay Cholkin is at near the top of a mountain plateau of one of those equatorial continents where the oxygen levels are barely enough to survive.
Tropical forests on top of mountains with barely enough oxygen. Okay. The whole planet is just hot. The lowlands, they're basically boiling. But on top of these mountains over here, there's not much oxygen, but it's just cold enough, and you got a lot of rains coming up from the tropical winds up here, so you've got these sort of highland, weird forests facing into the winds, and that's where we're living. The entire rest of the planet is a torrid hellscape, but we're hanging up here, we're doing fine. Maybe there's other societies in the other mountains, and we can have like airship travel between them. That could be fun. Yeah, that's our climate and geography. Let's get into biosphere.
All right, so Rob gives us reactive oxygen carpentry, so controlled peroxide chemistry, Bombardier beetle logic scaled for building / immunity / defense to cure adhesives, harden cuticles, sterilize or deploy flashbang, oxidant puffs for defense.
Okay. So they're a bombardier beetle species.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna make them bipeds. Well, sort of bipeds. They can have, like, legs that sort of, like, split into, like, two little things. Gonna be compact body. That's more compact than I wanted. And they have little nozzles around the sides of them to spurt out noxious acids. And that's their sort of defense and attack mechanism. But they also have hard, showy interior. The secondary use of these peroxides is it could sort of create this hardened cuticle. So everything on this planet is just like spraying noxious, burning fluids at each other, and then has to be armored against it. That's like the basic vibe of their biosphere.
I like it.
Little eyes here. We'll give them 3 eyes. Got like armored hoods over their eyes to try and protect them from all the burning acids. I don't really give them manipulators. Maybe the feet can be manipulators. It's fine. Species biology.
I like it.
Myself.
So, from Bavilia, we have species has sequential hermaphroditism.
That's nice. That's fun. So that's like they can switch gender at some point in their lives. There's several different ways that can go. Bib in Alien Biospheres talks a lot about like the different implications of how this can work. So we'll say in this society, there's like within social groups, there's a dominant female, which sort of suppresses everyone around them by spitting noxious fluids onto them. If any of the worlds we've built today have been nice to live in, I think the first one was okay.
Yeah, it's passable.
But then, you know, they're sort of jostling for dominance, and like the males around them can sometimes like overpower them and then start transition into a female themselves, and then they spray noxious fumes on them and then develop like I don't know, some kind of like fancy crest type deal to like represent their dominance. All right.
I like it.
7 minutes. Society, let's go.
All right, global society is from Artifexian. We have the governmental system is a mixture of an absolute monarchy and a parliamentary republic where the residing monarchy is viewed as a literal deity. See Meiji Restoration, Japan.
Yes. All right. This is global society. There's another global government. The ruler of this world is an empress who rules over everyone with the power of her noxious gases. And they've decided to allow for a parliament of all males who forms the sort of personal harem, but they can also vote on laws if they feel like it. It's fine. And then but every now and then there's an upheaval where one of the males in the parliament overthrows them and then becomes the empress themselves. Regional society.
From Huelos, we have they know their star system is filled with prime numbers and have a religion centered around it.
They're really into primes. The parliament consists of, what's a good prime? 17 male representatives. They have 3 eyes, so that's good. We'll say they have like 6 of these nozzles, but a religious rite is to have one of them removed so that they have 5, because they're just really into primes. So that one is just gouged out of there. Oh no. All right, 5 minutes. Character.
All right, from Alex, we have a relatively young individual who, despite the odds, managed to climb from the bottom to somewhere near the top of his or her society.
It's one of the males in the harem in the society.
Yes.
He comes somewhere here, but he traveled by airship to the imperial capital. He's in Parliament. He's like, oh yes, I'm going to bring reforms. I'm going to maybe limit how many noxious fluids people can spray in each other each day. But he's blocked at every turn by the Empress, and eventually at one point he gets so mad, he attacks her and defeats her, and then he's like, ooh, do I want to institute reforms and improve society? No, I'll be the Empress now. It's about the corruption brought by power and noxious fumes sprayed out of nozzles
I like
onto
it.
each other. It's really it's a very trans positive story. It's a story of personal liberation.
I like it. Her
Yes.
imperial noxiousness. Okay.
Her imperial noxiousness. I don't know how they speak. I didn't give them slurb. Her imperial noxiousness slurb. That's what
I
we'll
like
do.
it.
All right. That's it. That's 3 worlds. At least one of these worlds seems like it might have been okay to live on.
We got the noxious fumes, which I feel like vibes well with our psychedelic urine from the start.
Oh, yes. We did even talk about the psychoactives. Ugh, we've run out of time before the most important step. But I'm sure we could say there's an underclass which is like harvested for their fumes, and that's turned into a drug. We got 1 out of 3 for that. Yes, but I think I'm going to say goodbye for now. I will briefly bring you back out of the void. Say goodbye. Farewell, everyone.
Goodbye, everybody.
I've been doing a lot of cooking content lately. Who just has a cooking channel, except all the ingredients are like aliens somehow. I don't know. Idea to consider, babe.